I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Nick Antosca, the creator and showrunner of the Peacock True Crime Limited series, A Friend of the Family. Nick, I was so invested in this because I couldn't quite believe the sequence of events experienced by this family. And so, if I had that reaction, I'm just wondering what were your reactions to this story when you first came across the opportunity to adapt it for television?
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction is very similar to yours, and I think the reaction that most people have, which is how could this have happened? Another reaction that I had to hearing the story for the first time was because it had been sent to me as, maybe this is something to adapt. Is this is not a TV show. I don't see how this is a TV show. This is like too disturbing, too uncomfortable, too hard to comprehend. But I was incredibly fascinated by the story. So I read more about it. I read the book that Marianne Broberg, the mother, had written and self-published. And when I started to hear it in their voice a little bit more and experience the slow burn of the story, because it took place over 6 years. So when it's condensed into 90 minutes in a documentary, it's sort of so bam, 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 like shock after shock. When I started to experience it more the way that they experienced it, I realized it was a story about how people didn't see something. And because of that, there was a psychological and compelling story that hadn't really been told, even though people did know the outlines of the story. And how does any story start? Is with curiosity and I want to know more. I want to know how it could happen. So we reached out to Jan Broberg and the family because they're so present in the documentary, and we wanted to know if they would be open to having their story told and participating in it.
It's so fascinating because the moment that the show starts, we get Jan, talking to us about what happened in their lives. It puts you right into it puts you into their shoes straight away. And it then made me realize there's been some criticism leveled at so many other series in this genre, particularly around the ethics of amplifying, the deplorable people committing these crimes. This show, rightfully though, escapes that because the overriding priority is to focus on the victims and what happened to them from their perspective. I love that you so ardently want to focus on that, and I just wonder, was that something that you were really focused on and proud of throughout production, making sure that was the POV the whole time?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it really is a case-by-case basis in telling a true story, whether you're going to do it with the participation of the people involved or not, because sometimes you need a certain objectivity. But in this case specifically, because Jan was so clearly a victim, she was a child when this happened to her, and because she is so active in telling her story, and also because they're so candid about the mistakes that they made, they're so open, and there's so much documentation of everything. I felt that it would be we would only be able to tell the story if it had their blessing and their participation, and it's a unique opportunity. I mean, I've told true crime stories before, produced other true crime stories. In some case, it's not always the right choice to do it this way, and there's not always the opportunity to do it this way. But it was a unique experience and very meaningful.
And I mean, as the saying goes, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. And I get the sense that you would agree with that. You've worked on true crime stories throughout your career, like The Act and Candy. What attracts you to bringing those kinds of stories to the screen? Because you've been so successful in the past, and now with this one, I mean, all I've heard is raves about the show. So what attracts you to it?
Well, I mean, as writers and as storytellers, what are we attracted to? We're attracted to telling like complicated, compelling human stories, and what better opportunity is there than telling a story that really happened to somebody that seems too strange to be believed, but at its core, there are common human truths and vulnerabilities that you can get out of the story. I mean, The Act is a coming of age story, and so is this in a strange way, and there are themes deep in these stories that I think we can all relate to. And I don't tend to think of them automatically as true crime. I mean, we're not, going like, what is the next true crime story that we can tell? When I think about the stories that, are inspirations in terms of doing something like this right, it's stuff like Boys Don't Cry and Heavenly Creatures and Zodiac and things that are, true stories, but we don't really put them in kind of the true crime box necessarily. They're stories that, really happen to people, and they're complicated, and they're told with a kind of poetry and insight, you hope.
Does it ever occur to you when you've got the family involved in the making of a show like this, where the themes are, they can be quite confronting, and was this extra sensitivity throughout production to ensure that the family weren't dealing with their PTSD too much, but you're also trying to get to some truth and also trying to show the audience this is actually what happened, and it was actually quite horrifying?
That was something that I was very anxious about going in, and was really top of mind, but it wasn't a problem. It wasn't an issue. And I think that the actors too were very kind of sensitive to this. And, are we going to be re-traumatizing Jan or her family? Are we going to be triggering them if we ask certain questions in the research? And it really was not the case. I mean, they have processed and confronted this over the years, and we had so much research material. We had thousands of pages of research material. We had court transcripts, we had the FBI records, we had the handwritten notes from the FBI agent the first time he came to talk to them. We have Jan's diaries, like all scanned, her sister's diaries. There was just so much. And sometimes, once in a while, there would be something like, Jan or her sisters would say, like, well, I don't think that it would have been said this way, or I don't think that it would have been said that way. And for the most part, we would adjust to that. And we were very, very grateful to have that. And once in a while, they would say something like, I don't think, Dad would have had this conversation or something like that. And it would say, we took that, almost word for word from the court transcripts where he said that's what happened. And they would say, oh, okay. So it really was a kind of constant conversation. We sent them all the scripts. We would invite Jan into the writer's room and ask her questions. So, that fear subsided over time. And the actors will talk about this too. I know that Jake came into it feeling like, I'm playing the person who kidnapped and assaulted and brainwashed this woman as a child. Like, is it going to be weird to interact with her? Maybe I'll kind of keep my distance. I don't want to traumatize her. And she wrote him a letter, which he talks about a lot, basically giving him permission, saying, you don't have to worry about me while you're doing this performance. Like, I'm okay. I have a good life and I'm past this. So, don't be afraid to immerse yourself in this. And I think that permission was really meaningful, certainly to the cast. It was to me and the writers. And Jan also talked to the production designer, to the art department, everything. We really tried to get it right.
Yeah, I mean, it really shines through. And Jake Lacy is phenomenal in this. He's so hypnotic as this insidious predator, and he's not the supervillain. He's not over the top. There's this manipulative way that his character B, it just keeps adjusting and adapting to his circumstances. When you were watching Jake do this performance on set, what were your thoughts? What were your reactions to him?
Well, my first reaction early on was, what else can I write for Jake Lacy to do? Because, I mean, I knew he was a terrific actor. I'd followed his career for a while. And, I thought, obviously, coming into it with, he's known as like the nice guy, and there's articles about like, the nicest guys Jake Lacy has played and everything. And he kind of turned that on its head a little bit in White Lotus, and then really turned it on its head here. And I never doubted that he could do it. I mean, we asked him to do it, but just from the first couple days, I was like, oh my God, he's terrifying. And he understands exactly, just from the initial conversations that he and Jan had and that we had, and he listened to tapes of Berchtold talking, because there's a lot of recordings, FBI recordings and journals that he made himself. And he just synthesized it in this really brilliant way where he could use, he knows his tools, and like the smile can be armor, and he just synthesized it perfectly so that you're so like uncomfortable watching this character. I felt.
Yeah, amazing. Nick, thank you so much for your time today. It's fascinating. We'll bring you back shortly for our group chat.